All of my points are my best points. And so I hate that they end up on the cutting room floor.
This is why you should do cable news more than podcasts, is because cable news forces you have 10 other people sitting there. You got to get your point out in 5 seconds. Now, meanwhile, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 stories that we want to hit and talk in a long form way about.
Yeah, no, you just have to talk really, really loud.
Or go fast. I've gotten caught doing that, where I have a story that's maybe a little too long for the amount of time it has. And there's a part of my primal brain just going, well, if I talk a little faster, then I'm going to be able to fit this longer story with all of these fun details I want into this short amount of time.
All right. Well, I have a story for you that I saw that I thought was interesting, and maybe it'll be a quick hit. We'll see, right? Did you already see that Fannie Mae approved using crypto to stake yourself for a loan to buy a house?
I did, and I had enough questions about it that I was hesitant to put it on the outline. Because number one, who asked for this?
Yeah.
Number
Brian Armstrong
two,
is who asked for this, but
Brian Armstrong asked for this. Number two, how often is it that people are staking anything for a mortgage?
Well, I think that's kind of the point, is there hasn't been a way to allow crypto bros to buy real estate other than to sell the asset itself. Mm-hmm. And if you were one of the people who was silly enough to sell your Bitcoin to buy a pizza back in 2010 or whatever it was, you've lived to regret it the rest of your life. And so I think the goal here is I can hold on to the tokens until they get to $1 million per coin, because to the moon, even though that's being questioned right now, right here at like 65, 70,000. But I don't have to sell it to get there. I get the logic. I just don't understand why a house is the thing we're willing to allow you to stake it to buy.
Well,
and why the government needs to back it.
And Fannie Mae has the implicit guarantee. Mm-hmm. Ginnie Mae is the explicit guarantee. So why do we need, functionally the listener knows why they're doing this. Why would the federal government back any loan backed by crypto?
And why do you and I as taxpayers want to allow crypto bros to buy a $3 million property in Palm Beach with their crypto just to allow the loan to blow up when Bitcoin goes down to $50,000 or whatever and they get a margin call for us to pick up the bag? That's the part.
Because it creates jobs.
Oh, okay.
More houses.
Well, you didn't say that.
Jobs.
Okay, great.
And you know what? There are worse things people can do loaning crypto than buying a house.
Sure.
Which is maybe a low bar. I can barely play devil's advocate.
But do that yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't involve the taxpayer in your equation. Go do it yourself.
It's not the only bright side of this, of crypto-backed mortgages, is that this won't be a full 2008. Because not that many people are going to be doing it.
I get, but maybe what happened to letting the house be the thing that backed the mortgage for the house?
That's what I thought you were supposed to do.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. That was supposed to be a short. Yeah.
My banter one was, I'm still deep in the Afroman case. And for people who are listening to this on Tuesday, over a week since that has come out, I have been going through like Adams County court documents. I've been watching the deposition and the trial. And there is so much that is fascinating to me on this.
Back this up. Afroman?
Afroman. Have you been looking into this?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You have no idea. Are you just off the internet right now?
Not right now. I don't live on the internet at all.
No, but this was a huge story. So Afroman, 100%. If you're listening to this show right now and you have heard of the Afroman trial before this show, write a comment in Spotify or shoot us an email, because Malcolm is very wrong about this. And I don't have people to back me up as he's looking into this.
I thought Afroman I'm looking at this on the outline for this show.
Yeah.
I thought this was a typo.
No.
I thought this was supposed to say African. Wow, my brain didn't even. All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
2026. Yes. So forgive me for people who know this story. So Afroman, a few years ago, his house gets raided because the police believe that it was kidnapping and drug trafficking. So the Adams County cops, Adams County is kind of Appalachia, a few counties over from the Cincinnati area. So it's an area I'm a little bit familiar with. I didn't know Afroman lived in Appalachia, Ohio. So they raid his house. They cut the cameras off of his security system. They allegedly steal $400 from his coat pocket after he gets the coat back from the evidence locker. And then he goes on to make diss tracks about the individual police officers, naming them, saying horrible things about them. We're doing a clean show. So the nice one was he found video of a officer doing a double take on a lemon pound cake that was sitting in his kitchen. And so he has a whole song now about Officer Pound Cake. Now, all of these cops, and there's much worse about their sexuality, about their behavior, about what he did to their wives. All of those cops filed a $3.9 million defamation suit in Adams County against him. So the trial became all these cops taking the stand to describe how badly Afroman hurt their feelings. And it's iconic depositions where this poor Officer Poundcake guy is trying to describe the damages from Afroman's lies about him. And what he's saying is that when he goes to another police department, they call him Officer Poundcake. Or they said, what else happened? And he says, I had hundreds of pound cakes shipped to my sheriff's office. So there's that. There's a really bad one where Afroman accuses one of the cops of liking little kids, which is the one where I'm like, I think that actually could be defamation if you did that in and of itself. Lawyers correct me. But it became this very American story, which is that if Afroman were in pretty much any other developed country, with rare exceptions, you can't just name police officers in a rap song and humiliate them like that. And the judge wanted him to be found guilty as well. There was some bias going on during the trial. And even at the end of it, when Afroman was found, not liable to pay the damages, he still ordered Afroman to pay half of the court costs. And so for me, I've been watching this. It's just this very uniquely American story of the police went in. I changed my mind about some of their behaviors in there because Afroman said, why would you cut the cameras to my house if you were doing nothing wrong? And
That's
now
a fair question.
It is a fair question, but also I'm now at the place where if you're just the cop and all you know is that you have a search warrant for kidnap victims within the property, you might be worried about Afroman or whoever this person is, like, shooting you. You don't want maybe your location known at all times while you're doing that search warrant for a kidnap victim. In retrospect, you find out that there's no victims there, but I kind of understand that decision to cut the cameras.
I don't know. I will not defend the police's action in a moment like this where I have no clue what was the rationale behind, whatever. But I will say this falls along the lines of a comedian who either gets canceled or becomes beloved for the joke, depending on whether the joke was good or not. Like if the joke lands, the audience forgives you for skirting that line. In this case, if the song is good and makes people laugh, and Afroman's a terrible rapper, by the way. Like his one hit wonder. When you said it, I was like, is he talking about the "Cause I Got High" guy? So like, and I was like 25 years ago. So if the song is good and it makes people laugh, then no harm done. If the song is not good and people don't laugh, then it's defamation or libel or whatever else we decide to hit you with in court. And I think that's how the court of public opinion settles these kinds of situations. So was he within his First Amendment rights to make a song naming people and saying whatever he wanted to about them? Probably. Is this where you were talking about, the pedophilia part of the whole scenario? I was thinking about Hannibal Buress, the comedian, and him bringing up Bill Cosby's transgressions on a stage, just kind of off the cuff, it seemed at the time. And then it caused people to start to ask questions and look into it. And it turned out he actually did a public good with one joke. And so maybe, we have to allow for people to say the thing if there's some there. And I'm not saying there is by any means in this case, because I'm just learning about this in real time. I'm just saying maybe sometimes we can't just write off everything as off the cuff like we have to do when Elon Musk calls a person pedo guy. In this case, like, we got to listen to what the guys say. Maybe they did steal his $400. So maybe the guy was lusting after his pound cake. Like, we don't know.
Just for SEO purposes, today's title might be "Take Afroman Seriously, comma, not Elon Musk." But I hear your point, and I think that is important, which is why I said could be. I feel like that it's significantly worse to say someone is a pedophile than they were looking at the pound cake. Maybe there's some there. That's for someone else to look into and figure out, not me as a former Adams County prosecutor. But from an economics perspective, and then we'll get into more of the meat part of the show, I was like, here's an artist who's able to, find a second wind later in his career. Americans love a comeback story. They love being in on the joke. And he's able to this is the fullest extent of your First Amendment rights, which is you're in a courtroom saying, I did not defame these police officers. A judge kind of implies, yes, you did. And a jury of your peers is able to say, absolutely not. Go walk free in your full American flag suit and keep rapping, Afroman.
Because they went home and listened to it and had a chuckle and said, eh.
And he's still making a good living. Either of us would be lucky to be Afroman's financial advisor. This dude's pulling in. He works.
Doing what?
He said he does 2 to 250 nights a year. And every time he sings these venues, he does a lot of college parties, I think. He does a lot of small venues. Each time it's a check, $2,500 to it sounds like he's getting paid between $2,500 and about $5,000 per performance.
And for 2 songs.
I mean, I'm sure he's got more songs with the cop songs, but
so all they did was increase his notoriety now, and all over Ohio and Pennsylvania, he's going to be doing his thing.
Yes, he has probably about 6 months to a year where he can significantly increase ticket sales. And he's just been grinding. He's just been going and performing and doing the same 2 songs that people liked up until now. And by my estimation, he's not making millions per year, but he's doing better than a lot of software engineers at NVIDIA.
I mean, also for a guy who never was a big deal when he was in his heyday, he's doing pretty good by, I want to be an artist and live off my art standards. Yeah. Like, okay, good for you.
Even if some of the art is kind of creepy, where in his security cam, it's hung up copy paper drawings that are not framed. It's just very neatly arranged copy paper drawings that are at the front door of his house. Another thing we have questions about. We'll investigate later.
Sounds
but today
so
on the
much
show,
like an episode of the Boondocks. Like, it just
yeah.
Anyway, all right, let's move.
We have more potential corruption to talk about with trades worth over $1 billion rolling in right before a Trump announcement. I want to talk about some reporting I have done on taxes you pay that are supposed to fund the TSA, which may or may not be funded by the time you're listening to this show. And a sign for the American economy. More people starting their own business. All right, let's get into it. Malcolm, I'm going to read you this tweet from Unusual Whales, and I would like to hear what your thoughts are. This is podcasting. This is real podcast journalism. Reading a tweet and then having someone respond to it. All right. 5 minutes before Trump's announcement to halt the attacks on Iran, massive trades reportedly hit the market. In one move, 1.5 billion in S&P 500 futures was bought, while about 200 million in oil futures was sold. These orders were 4 to 6 times larger than anything else at the time. This trader seemingly made huge gains. Unusual. I agree. That is unusual.
That's a massive amount of money to take a flyer on. So I'm not even willing to call it unusual so much as blatant. Like, that's right there in your face. I am just going to plop down $1.5 billion on a sure thing.
And notional value for the future. So it's a little bit less, but that's the underlying value.
whatever. Like whatever that actually tracks to a few $100 million is still not chump change. So like you had to have known something about something for certain. And that's the whole point. Like that is blatant manipulation.
And it was done because it was so quick. My understanding is that this was done in the futures market versus an options market because it is more liquid. Because there's more volume on an S&P future than an S&P call option, which is why this person may have done this, is they needed to execute it fast and right now. Pardon me. And the really frustrating thing about a lot of these stories is that in this case, the CFTC, the Futures Commission, can easily find out who this account is. They can look at the trade and go, okay, who did this? This is what regulators are for. They could go find out. And I have a feeling they won't find out, even though this is the type of thing that I think when these stories, not just this one in and of itself, but the more these stories happen, especially for younger generations, it really makes them distrust the market. Why would I put my money into the stock market when I'm seeing these types of things and it just seems so easily rigged?
That's the part that bothers me the most is there's so much distrust and mistrust among younger people from all of the institutions, the federal government, the stock market, the financial system more broadly, the healthcare system even. There's so much mistrust of all of it. And this just helps to reinforce everything that they're skeptical of. Like, I'm not saying they're mistrusting of the system as if they shouldn't be. I'm just pointing out the fact that they are. And this stinks. Like it right there in your face is once again someone gaming the system for their own benefit. And this is obviously the haves getting heavier once again, because I'm going to assume, this is a big assumption, but I'm going to assume this is not a 25-year-old beating the system by playing the options market this way. This is probably someone in later years of their life who has the means to do such a thing and the connections to the administration to know when to time such a move.
And the thing that is so gross about it, they could have done 2x a normal trade.
Mm-hmm.
They could have done this in a way that wasn't so blatant for something that is as liquid as the futures market.
If you're going to crime, you might as well crime all the way, though.
Yeah, but if you're going to crime, why wouldn't you try to cover your tracks just a little bit?
Because, well, so that's kind of my point, though. If you are the person who is so situated this close to the administration with the resources and the information, you're not thinking about, I got to cover my tracks. You're living in a totally different world where consequences aren't your problem.
Yeah, you might get pardoned if you get caught.
This isn't Afroman making this trade. This is, somebody with substantial means and connections.
It's the George Carlin quote. It's a big club and you're not in it.
Pretty much.
And so I've been looking more into the Pokemon and collectibles market lately, as I've told you about. And something I've heard from a lot of these Pokemon collectors is, people don't trust stocks as much, but they know that this is a market that they understand. That these vintage rare Pokemon, and there's parts of this collectibles market that are screaming bubble to me. Happy to get into that. But I know that this 1999 vintage holographic Charizard card, that's the Fire Dragon Pokemon, Malcolm. I know that will hold its value for the next 30 years because it's held its value for for 30 years. I see the people buying and selling this. Therefore, I have greater faith that these stores of value will continue to hold value. Now, a lot of people in that collectible market, they're screwing around, but I think there is a significant chunk that are also acting on that belief.
I am a person who does not have many regrets in their life whatsoever. I also look at this. I watched the King of Collectibles show on Netflix, and I deeply regret however many kids there were that I called a nerd in middle school for being so obsessed with Pokemon and Pokemon cards and did not seize the opportunity to buy several packs of those stupid cards what is this, 2000 we're talking? No, this is probably 1990s, mid 90s.
99 I think was or no, we're in the 30th anniversary, because I've heard that's why there's a lot of action on Pokemon.
Yeah,
it's the 30th anniversary.
I think I was in like 6th grade, something. I don't know. Anyway, there were so many instances of me going, whatever, nerds, to the basketball court I go. And if any of those people were smart enough to hold on to any of those cards that they were so excited about that were holographic and shimmery, when they pulled them out the pack and didn't destroy them, they probably bought a house with the proceeds from holding on to that rarity. And I am sitting here looking like the idiot. So good on you. There was actually, I was watching for a moment, unintentionally, I was watching the local news yesterday, and the reason it stuck, like as I'm trying to flip through.
Don't say unintentionally, support your local news.
Yeah, sure. The reason that it stuck was because the anchor broke into today in Northern Virginia. I think it was Loudoun County, Virginia, which is a very wealthy part of Virginia, also a wealthy part of the entire country. A house was broken into. 3 teens broke in to steal rare Pokemon memorabilia and specifically a few Pokemon cards. And I was like, nerds. I had the same reflexive, and then immediately said, they know that that's in that person's house so much so that they went to get it. I bet you there's millions of dollars worth of Pokemon memorabilia. And like immediately had that snap reaction where I was like, no. I missed it again. Like 30 years later, my reflex was wrong again. And the money version of me was like, oh, snap. There's probably millions of dollars they were breaking into this person's house to try and get worth of Pokemon cards.
I mean, a lot of these rare, like the rare cards I was seeing going for sale at a card show, that's, some of them it was not uncommon to see $5,000, $10,000, $18,000 cards. So that's a lot of $100 bills lying on the ground if someone is flexing their collection. Mm-hmm. And
but we're not talking $100 bills though in a lot of cases, because similar to pieces of art where there are so few of them and they trade only so often, there's people that are pulling cards that are worth $1 million each time they break the box and find, like what's the guy's name? Logan Paul.
So Logan Paul
was wearing one around
16,
his neck.
Yeah, that one sold for 16 million. It's extraordinarily rare for even broken cards to get above $1 million. Unlike
the fact that it exists is what keeps people coming back to the party. Is my whole point. The whole reason you sit through a 3 or 4 hour Christie's auction is because there's that one crown jewel that's going to get auctioned, and people end up bidding on a bunch of other crap that's just there because they know they're bored, so they're going to bid on something, or they know they're not going to get the crown jewel anyway, so I might as well be seen buying something. And I think that habit is also applying here. There's a lot of activity happening and excitement happening because of those crown jewels that sell for 10 and 15 and $20 million, and it brings more people to the party.
Yeah, and so a couple of things. The thing that is different about art is that there is a standardized grading system, and it is relatively liquid, where a lot of these rare cards, and I'm using not quotations, they're rare cards relative to what people are pulling. There's a standardized grading system, and they're relatively liquid. You can see what they sold for within the past day or week on eBay. There are parts of this that are very odd to me, which if you are interested in this game, ask yourself these questions. PSA grades these cards 0 to 10. 10 is flawless. That's what collectors really pay up for. Sometimes 3 to 5 to 10x a 9. And that difference could be as small as a tiny white dot on the back of the card. Ungraded cards, which have not been graded by PSA, are going for more than a graded 9 because people are so just foaming at the mouth, hoping that they can find one that's worth a 10. So that seems a little nutty to me. And then the second is a lot of these modern cards are also seeing massive price increases where there's a huge population of them. And even people in the Pokemon collecting community are thinking like, okay, this is overheated a lot on these modern cards. So those are two things I'm watching for people who are considering taking speculative stabs. Last thing I'll say on this is the one, if you want to get greasy with it, I'm going to start looking at it. I will probably not buy any of these, but maybe one of the collecting booms to come is from this anime show that a lot of Gen Z and Gen A likes called One Piece. They have a trading card game, and I think that that's going to build up a lot of excitement. I have no knowledge of the market.
To the Bitcoin here?
This might be an Ethereum to the Bitcoin. So it's something I will look into. I would consider it gambling money that you're lighting on fire, but it's something that may be worth an internet rabbit hole. How about that? You want to talk about stocks?
Please.
We've done so much, and the listener has been so patient with us. Malcolm, you said you bought Okta on CNBC, and I know this is not on the outline, but I assume you're good on this. What's going on with Okta, and why are you buying shares of Okta?
Well, it's down today, so I might regret you putting me on the spot with it at the moment. But essentially, I am still looking for opportunities in the middle of this tech wreck, specifically in software, because that's the place I love to invest the most, for companies that I think actually do a thing that, yes, may be disrupted by artificial intelligence, but will not be displaced entirely by artificial intelligence. And Okta, to me, looks like a great place to place that bet. So two things are happening simultaneously. One, with software being sold off so aggressively, it means that investment banks are going to show up at this party very soon, trying to force mergers and or full-on acquisitions of some of these companies. Because when it falls 30, 40, 50+% in a 3 to 6 month window, activist investors show up at the table and demand that you put yourself up for sale. And I think a lot of that is going to happen in the second half of this year. So that kind of puts in a put underneath how much further some of these companies can fall. Again, if they actually do a thing and have a customer base that wants more of what they do. Separately from that, Okta to me falls into this category because identity security is their claim to fame. They just released a product that basically its job is what's now referred to as AI governance. Its job is to make sure that it understands who has access to what data, who is supposed to have access to that data, and whether or not they are doing something or trying to do something with that data that they are not authorized to do. And humans behave very differently interacting with data inside of a computer system than robots do. And so Okta's job now is to make sure that the AI agents that behave like humans in a way, because they're using our real credentials to access different things, aren't going rogue. They're keeping the robots from going rogue. That's the whole job of this one piece of identity software. And so it's about a $15 billion company in size. I think that it's probably going to end up being an acquisition target for someone a lot larger. If you think about Wiz, the most recent company that Google bought, I think it was $32 or $34 billion is what they ultimately bought it for. And it was at that size, small enough for Google to just absorb it and keep on moving like nothing ever happened. And so I think about a company like Okta as potentially being a good target for someone like that. So all the analyst targets on this thing are north of 100, or I should say the average analyst price target is north of 100. It's selling in the mid 70s right now, which means that there's an implied premium of at least 25%. If you were to buy the shares today, I just started buying it in the 70s myself. And so I think that it's been de-risked enough that whether it appreciates from here over the next 12 months or gets acquired and there's a premium applied, I'll make money either way.
It's been pretty much dead money for the past 3 years.
Because they only make one product. So if you think about a platform company like CrowdStrike, right? We want the platform that's got 27, 28 modules. Zscaler, a platform that's got 20 something modules. This is a company that only does one thing. They do one thing well, but they only do one thing. And so they're kind of getting left in the dust.
It's also one that I just hated using. Where I was constantly doing it's been 30 minutes. All right, I guess I got to do Okta verify. Okay, fine. And the other thing with this is that this actually is one where I'm not a software expert. It seems like you could kind of home cook an authenticator app pretty easily. Google has one. I don't understand how a company like CrowdStrike or other cybersecurity companies couldn't easily just replicate a two-factor authentication program and say, you don't need a separate contract with Okta. We can make two-factor authentication here at home.
Well, so CrowdStrike and Palo Alto and Zscaler, I believe. I'm not 100% sure about Zscaler yet, but I have to imagine it's one announcement 2 seconds away, if not. Already have announced their own versions of an agentic governance solution. There's also a company called Netscope that I've probably talked about on here before. I've definitely talked about it on TV before, that governance is their claim to fame as well. And so I like these standalone, we do one thing and one thing well kind of companies, that the downside for them is basically that they get acquired by a bigger platform because they are so much smaller in market cap. And if that's the worst thing to happen to the shares of the company, then I'm okay anyway, because you got to pay a decent premium in that acquisition.
Okay, fair play. I picked up some ServiceNow. That was the stock that we've been talking about on the show that I have picked up a few shares of. We can do more stocks you've bought and sold. I want to do this TSA story for a little bit.
No, let's talk TSA. That's the one that has been hottest on my radar recently. So I'm good there.
No private credit opportunities you want to buy or sell right now?
If I were a short seller, I would be interested in private credit. Because I'm not, I won't.
This episode is sponsored by Capital Area Planning Group. Capital Area Planning Group is a fiduciary wealth management firm that specializes in helping high net worth individuals and families navigate the complexities that come along with managing concentrated stock options, multiple income streams, and an ever-changing tax code. While our team of certified financial planners are well-versed in all things personal finance, our areas of expertise include equity compensation, estate planning, and multi-year tax planning. At Capital Area Planning Group, we believe in pricing transparency. That's why our fees are posted on our website, right alongside the various services we perform on behalf of our clients throughout the year. If you're tired of receiving the same cookie-cutter advice from your financial advisor, then don't wait. Reach out to us today at capgllc.com to experience a better approach to wealth management. Again, that web address is www.capgllc.com.
So TSA, this is the story that came out on Wednesday. So if you want to check out my reporting on The Indicator from Planet Money, you can find it there about TSA. We're recording on Friday morning. The Senate has the Senate reportedly passed a budget bill for DHS that means TSA gets paid. Also, President Trump said he was going to sign an executive order that would say you got to pay these TSA workers. In my view, that doesn't make it all better. And it pains me to see these folks sort of now being a political football for the second time over the past 12 months, where they are missing paychecks. Mm-hmm. And I think there is an there may be a view among some people, which is, oh, but you get back pay. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not going to get paid. You're just, Congress is arguing, you're doing your work, and then you'll just get your pay a few weeks later. And when I was having these, and even I had that a little bit in the back of my brain, like, this is why you have an emergency fund from 3 to 6 months. In Washington, D.C., in your fine city, Malcolm, a first-year TSA worker will make a base salary of about $47,000. So how do you survive, go to the grocery store, put gas in your tank, pay rent? How much money do you have left to save and invest?
Forget the grocery store. They will spend $40,000 using the metro all year to get back and forth to work. Like, you'll spend all of that in a heartbeat just on train fare. Forget owning a car and paying for insurance, and gas now is $12 a gallon or something. Like, forget all that. Just to ride public transportation to get to and fro, they're going to spend their entire salary on that.
Yeah. And so they're going to get their money back. A lot of these people have credit card interest they're going to have to pay off. They have late fees. There's damage to their credit reports if they missed payments.
Here's a thing that tells you just how desperate the situation has gotten and why we shouldn't write it off as, oh, but those people will get back pay. The news reports, again, local news, probably more specifically here than anywhere else. Folks who are working for the FAA and TSA are resorting to selling blood and other bodily fluids to pay their bills. And that is like a big story that keeps getting reported on here in this area. Like, once we get into that place, people are desperate, and we shouldn't be writing it off as, oh, you should have an emergency fund. Oh, maybe they had an emergency fund, got sick, had to use it, and now they're up the creek. Or maybe they had an emergency fund, they had a shutdown 3 months ago, they blew through it then to cover it, and this second one that just happened 3 months later didn't give them enough time to build the emergency fund back up. So, there is a chance that people were even doing the right things, quote unquote, or preparing themselves for it, and it rained so hard that it flooded, and now, here we are.
Yeah. So it sounds like they're going to start getting paid again. I can only imagine. I would be a horrible TSA worker. Got to look at IDs all day. You got to smile. Hey, how are you? Okay. Yeah, make sure. And the economics piece of this that I looked into was this idea of a hypothecated tax, which is that we have a specific tax paying for a specific program. So ones you may be familiar with are a gas tax paying for a road. And then there's ones where they aren't connected to the program. This is what economists don't like. So in Colorado, it is a sports betting tax that is used for water conservation, or a cigarette tax that's going to fund early childhood education. And it's a way to get the public to buy into some of these, hey, we're going to have cigarettes and they're going to be sold, but at least that the tax money is going to a good place. It's going to a kindergarten. But then you may run into an issue where it was, I believe California bans menthol cigarettes. And then these early, like kindergartens and primary schools are like, wait, we lost money. And it's because you have a disconnected funding source with the outcome. And that's sort of what happened with the TSA, where after 9/11, so pre 9/11, airlines were responsible for passenger screening, and they contracted it out to usually the cheapest possible contractor. They weren't thinking about security as much. And after 9/11, the TSA is formed, a new government agency. How are we going to fund this? Oh, we'll do a fee on the airline ticket. We'll call it a 9/11 fee, or a U.S. passenger security fee. That's one part. And the second part, we're going to have airlines pay a monthly subscription basically directly to the agency. And we're going to base this off of the amount of money you spent on security in 2000. So you're just not going to pay a private contractor. You're going to put it into this pool. As the years go on, the airline lobbyists come in and say, this is an unfair tax, and we're going to cut taxes, and that's going to ultimately benefit the consumer. So there's a move in a 2013 spending bill where they get rid of the airline's side of the bargain, their monthly subscription. They double the tax that passengers pay. So now it's $11.20 on round trip tickets for US flights. And budgeters see this, and Paul Ryan worked on it, Obama signed it into law. They say, we have a pot of money here that could be used to pay down the federal deficit, and we can do this without raising taxes or cutting popular programs. Okay, we're going to build in a increasing mechanism, so parts, and more so year after year, of your passenger security fee now go into the general fund in the same pot where your income taxes go. So, bit of a long story, but it is a way of saying, yes, you pay a passenger security fee, but that's why that breakdown of a hypothecated tax is why these TSA workers end up missing paychecks, even though the money is coming in, which, by the way, in and of itself, couldn't fully fund TSA in the first place.
I think hypothecated taxes make perfect sense at the local level, at the state level, because you can directly point and shoot. And in some cases, that still doesn't even work out. Like in Maryland, the reason that there are two really large casinos was because they had proposed or promised to pay a certain amount of tax that was going to go toward funding schools in Maryland. And I don't know if this is still the case, but there was a time where there was a battle going on between the state and the casinos to get them to actually pay the taxes that they had promised to pay that were supposed to fund the schools. And then they welched on it, basically. So that's a hard enough thing at a state level. At the federal level, it's even tougher to directly point and say this is where these tax dollars are going to go, because things are so political that they always, every 4 years, are up for debate whether we actually need it, and the lobbyists are strong enough to get us to cut it. That said, I do think that there are certain things that shouldn't be up for question here in the States when it comes to what gets funded under the bill. And you might say, does the military actually need $40 trillion every year to run its operations? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But there is some base level amount that they need to cover salaries of all the service, armed services folks. There's some base level they need to pay for utilities and whatever their base level costs are. And you can say that against every other organization. There's some basic costs like salaries for TSA workers and FAA workers that we absolutely need to be funding no matter what, because we are extremely unsafe when trying to think of the most responsible way to say this. We're extremely unsafe when you have someone who is financially strapped standing between a person with bad intentions boarding a plane or not, and then potentially being propositioned off to the side somewhere and saying, let the guy with the blue hat go through today and there's $100,000 in it for you. Like, that is the thing that we all should be trying to guard against. And if the only thing we have to do to make sure that that doesn't happen is pay people on time and pay them well, then my God, like, why can't that be a thing that we agree on regardless of which side of the political spectrum you fall on?
Not even pay them well. For those listening, do you want this job? You're a few years in, you're getting paid. Maybe you live in a somewhat high cost of living area. Could be a resort town, could be Denver, Colorado, could be Washington, D.C. You're making maybe, let's say, $60,000 to $75,000 a year. You're working a 10-hour shift. You're looking at x-rays all day if you're lucky, or you're checking IDs, and you have to be on your game the whole time. You get a 30-minute lunch break.
And on your feet the whole time.
You're on your feet. Maybe you get to get a 15-minute break. You go and listen to your coworker talk about what they saw on NCIS last night. And maybe every 3 to 5 years, you get to go to Disney World. That's what you get. And it's the benefit. You get a pension, you get a defined benefit pension, but that's far away. So it's a stressful and long job. And anyway, that was my reporting on that.
But the FAA, I want to throw into the mix with this as well, because they are also equally overworked, underpaid in a lot of instances. And you have people who are walking off the job and saying, forget it, I'm good, I've had enough. And that makes us equally unsafe when you have collisions on runways with a fire truck and an airplane. Like, here's what's crazy though.
They were fully funded for 2026.
The thing that's
don't lump your FAA peanut butter into my reported jelly.
It doesn't matter. They're getting screwed around with just as much, and it's just as stupid as my point. But what is the cause of bringing everybody back to the negotiating table? It's not, we feel so bad that we've done this to our poor TSA workers. It's that Delta Airlines shut down the Congress people only call line and said, you guys are going to have to call into the same phone line as the general public until you fund TSA. And that is the one thing that we can directly point to that said that helped these people find religion and come to an agreement. That's nuts.
You think it was that?
100%. I think it was that.
Wow.
They now have to live like us normies. And they said, oh, shoot, I don't like this. I don't want to be on hold for 4 hours trying to get my flight rerouted because there's been cancellations left and right. Because, oh, by the way, the cost of jet fuel has doubled since the United States declared war against one of the most oil-rich regions of the world. Like there's a whole lot of stupidity that is all coming together, right? There's a confluence of stupidity that's coming together at the perfectly wrong time.
Anything on news, company related stuff you want to talk about before we get into this Wall Street Journal piece on the economy and people starting their own businesses?
No, let's
because I know sometimes people, we gave them a stock thing. You got one stock thing from this show of a company to check out, and you got a greasy collectible thing to look into. That's enough actionable information. A couple of pieces in the Wall Street Journal that are worth discussing together. One is called "Starting Your Business is All the Rage Again," and the other was "America now has more spas and gyms rather than stores selling actual stuff." I think this is a part of the same economic story as AI disrupts jobs and also creates more opportunity, as you can vibe code your way into a prototype of something pretty easily. And also, people aren't buying things at stores, but they're buying facials. They're still doing dry cleaning, and boutique fitness is all the rage. Here's the reporting. There was more than 500,000 new business applications in January, according to the Census Bureau. That is 37% more than a year ago. And now on LinkedIn, the number of people listing themselves as founder is about 70% higher than 1 year ago. Malcolm, your reaction to that data?
Surprise, surprise. I'm responding specifically to the people listing themselves as founder part of that. I think that is very telling about where we are as an economy, where I keep reading about there being a phenomenon of fake job postings online, which blows my mind. Like, what's the point of fake job listings? But people have become disenchanted with the idea of filling out 100 applications, getting one interview, getting not ever hearing back from people, all those kinds of things. And so they're saying, forget it. I'm just going to go do my own thing, build my own thing. And that's how I'm going to earn my living. And maybe it takes me a little longer to get to it. But rather than going and doing that whole song and dance, and I get it. I think it makes perfect sense. I'm actually also encouraged by the idea of us having more entrepreneurs, like legitimate entrepreneurs, not just people masquerading as business owners. But I'm encouraged by the idea of people starting more businesses and earning their living that way. So I support it.
Why are there more fake job postings? It's because it's a scam. So if you find people in a desperate economic position and you're having them either pay, for whatever guide, or you can get someone's bank account information on a fake job posting, I think that's a lot of the scam.
Yeah, sure.
You see the fake job posts.
I'm not even talking about the why. I'm just talking about the fact that I, as a person I'm a software engineer who just got laid off from Meta, and I'm looking for a software engineering job anywhere else at one of the big FANG companies or even a startup at this point. There's so many fake postings out there that I can't tell the real from the fake. There's so much that's being done. My resume is being reviewed by AI now, and I don't even know what keywords I'm supposed to dump into this thing. The people on LinkedIn keep offering to charge me $2,000 to apply to jobs for me and tighten up my resume to include the keywords for the job that I'm interested in searching for. Oh, there was a $2,000 I wasted doing. There's so many things out there that just exhaust you. And so I understand the idea. Forget it. I'm just going to go build something myself and take my talents down to South Beach.
The other trend, fitness center openings. So right now, just over 50% of retail square footage is service-based. That's the shift, is that more retail space is based on services rather than physical goods, which is a tipping point's the wrong word, but a significant point for our economy. And now it's fitness center openings. They make up nearly 30% of service-based leases, compared with 20% in 2016. That's according to CoStar. My concern with a lot of this, Malcolm, is that a lot of that now is pickleball. And I think that might be a frozen yogurt type trend 10 years later with these luxury pickleball courts opening. Unfortunately, one called Velto Pickleball Club in Brooklyn. It is a high-tech, high-end version of pickleball. Think sensors that automate line calls, a 14,000-foot space with 4 courts and a lounge and a co-working space.
You know who I blame for this?
Co-working space.
You know who I blame for this?
Who do you blame?
The great wealth transfer. This is people inheriting money that don't know what the hell they're doing.
So they set up co-working spaces at a pickleball court without
without a legitimate business
Zoom
plan
rooms?
and realizing like build it and they shall come isn't really a thing.
I swear, if you ever do this to me, Malcolm, we're really grateful for the amount of effort and dedication you've put into this company. Your years of service have not gone unnoticed. However, the AI transformation.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you over the pickleball.
The AI transformation has made it that we have to make budget cuts and lay you off.
Wait, can you say it again? Can you say it again? It's my serve. Can you say it again?
You get Cobra for 18. No, I'm at the pickleball court. I can't imagine. You put a co-working space at a pickleball court? Where are we at? What are we doing?
Listen, I won't lump Hannah into this. I'll say you specifically wouldn't believe me when I said, whenever I am on the West Side Highway down by Hudson Yard area and I see all these people with nothing to do, way too much leisure at 11 a.m., this is what they're doing with their inheritance. This is what's happening.
Great. Back to the great wealth transfer. All right. We're going to end the show there. You can find me I'll do Instagram this time, at Rick So Slick on Instagram. Malcolm's at Malcolm on Money. One thing you can do to help the show, share it with a friend who may enjoy it. I'm enjoying the show we're doing, and I hope you are too. You can also email us thistimepod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Information shared in this recording and by its guests represent the views and opinions of the guests and does not represent the views or opinions of the host. This content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. This content is not, nor is it intended to be a substitute for professional financial advice. It is always recommended that you seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your personal financial situation.